In the IP version 4 world, a multicast address is a Class D IP address. And a Class D IP address has its first octet in the range of 224 through 239. And in this video, we want to take a look at some classifications of IP version 4 multicast addresses that lie within this range. Let's begin with a reserved link local address. In other words, it's going to be useful between routers on a subnet. And this is often used to speak between routers. And you see the range is 224.0.0.0 through 224.0.0.255. As a couple of examples of well-known IPv4 addresses we might see in this range, we have 224.0.0.5, and that is all OSPF speaking routers, or 224.0.0.6. That's just OSPF speaking routers that are a DR, a designated router, or a BDR, a backup, a designated router. Most of the addresses in this range fall under the category of a globally scoped address, an address that is allowed to be used globally on the public internet. But within this globally scoped addresses range, we have some subcategories. For example, an IP address that begins with 232 in the first octet. That is called a source-specific multicast address. Oftentimes, a PC will say, I want to belong to a multicast group, but I don't really care who the source is. Well, here we're saying I do care who the source is. We're saying not only do I want to belong to a specific group, I want to get my stream from this specific IP address, this specific source. Maybe because it's geographically closer to me. Maybe we have some sort of a content distribution network and I want to go to this IP address versus another IP address that's also servicing this group because it's closer to me. Yet another category is called a glop address. And this is a way for us to take our BGP autonomous system number and from that autonomous system number derive a range of addresses that we can use on the public internet that are unique and they're based on our autonomous system number. And in just a moment, I'll walk you through the math behind how we take an AS, an autonomous system number, and generate a glop address range. But finally, we have a limited scope address. And this is much like the private address ranges, the RFC 1918 address ranges that we have with IP version 4. For example, the 10 dot address range, that range is not routable on the public internet, but we can use it inside of our organization. Same thing here. A limited scope address can be used within an organization, and it's going to begin with a 239. Now let's back up for a second and talk about how we can calculate a glop address based on our BGP autonomous system number. And glop, by the way, that stands for Global and Local Open Policy. And as an example, let's imagine that we have an autonomous system number of 65,000. Well, the first thing we do is convert that decimal value of 65,000 into hexadecimal. And using a calculator, you can quickly determine that in hex, that is an FDE8. By the way, when you're looking at a hexadecimal number, those numbers are often prepended with a 0x. That's just saying the following is a hexadecimal number. So in this case, we're dealing with a hex value of FDE8, and then we split that in two. We look at FD in isolation, and we look at E8 in isolation. FD in hex is going to give us a 253 in decimal, and that's going to be the value of our second octet. Now the E8, that's going to be a 232 in decimal, and that's going to be the value of our third octet. And we said that all of these glop addresses begin with a 233, and now we've got this address range that we can use on the public internet, and we know it's unique because it's based on our BGP autonomous system number. And in our example, it's a 233 because all of these glop addresses begin with 233. Then it's .253, which is FD in decimal. And the third octet is 232, which is E8 in decimal, .0. And we can populate that fourth octet with whatever values we want, and we know it's going to be unique on the public internet. And that's a look at IP version 4 multicast addresses.